Asian MMOs are a dime a dozen. 1/3 of them come out with an announcement and after years waiting, release within their country of origin, disregarding the rest of the world. 1/3 of them actually release to a Western audience and fail to live up to any expectations set by the MMO community, typically due to pay to win, horrendous grinds, or they have bless in their name. And the final 1/3, well, they don't even end up releasing. Hey, my name is STIX and welcome back to the channel. Now, you guys are gonna have to bear with me on this one, as the article pertaining to this announcement specifically is in Korean, and translating it has garnered some suboptimal results. If what I've translated using a multitude of different translators available online is correct though, then it looks as though we have a new medieval PC MMORPG currently in development utilizing Unreal Engine 5 developed in Korea. And I know you are immediately going to jump to the conclusion that this is just another trashy Korean MMO. And that very well might be the case, but let's not judge a game before the developers have a chance to show us what they're capable of. Otherwise, we're just aiding in the stagnation of the genre. Quick shout out to our patrons over on Patreon. This allows you to directly support us if you're interested. Every patron will have their name appear at the beginning of every single YouTube video, and you'll be immortalized in the MMO genre forever. InVen, the website that is reporting on this, mentions the developer New Incorporated is currently in the process of developing a live-action PC MMORPG simply titled BELLATORES. After Googling around for a few minutes, I could find no mention of a developer with that name, but the article does note the CEO's name, Kim Jung-hwan, who happens to be the CEO of a company called New Incorporated. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and assume that this is the company in question, as after navigating on over to their website, I see they do in fact have an MMORPG that is in active development, an MMO that on their website they call Project N1. They list this game as a PC MMORPG for Windows 10 built with Unreal Engine 5. Now, after digging a little further, I learned that Project N1 has actually been in active development since 2017, and since 2017 has continued to receive repeated funding from a variety of different investors, including but not limited to KB Securities, Cape Investment and Securities, KDP Industrial Bank, Dowell Investment, Welcome Capital, Wheelix Investment, and Yuanta Securities. Nyo, the developers of the upcoming MMO, went on to note that they understand the value of PC MMORPGs in the global market, where Chinese MMOs typically tend to target predominantly a mobile demographic, as Asians love spending exorbitant amounts of money on their digital waifus. Actually, you know what? Now that we're talking about spending money on waifus, there are actually people in Japan that spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on music, specifically from idols that they obsess over. And you know the kinds of things they do when they obsess over their idols in Japan? Yeah, get that image out of your head now. Purely though, for the chance to meet them. That is crazy, that is mind-blowing, right? Like, dude, I had a thing for Britney Spears. I had a thing for Christina Aguilera back when I was like 13 or 14 years old, but there was no way in hell that I was gonna spend, well, there was no way in hell that I or my family had or would have ever had hundreds of thousands of dollars. But if we did have hundreds of thousands of dollars, there is no way I would have wasted that money on meeting one of them. But they have confirmed that their goals with BELLATORES differ quite substantially to the norm. Neo have a vision, potentially a vision to compete with Black Desert Online, given this game bears a very strong resemblance to it. Their vision is to have a largely successful PC MMO in both Korea, where PC gaming is still thriving, and over in the West, where PC gaming is the most popular form of gaming on any platform. Or, okay, well, it is at least pertaining to the MMO scene. Mobile gacha games would prove otherwise, but mobile MMOs have failed to take off over here. Thank God. BELLATORES has been in active development since 2017, and as of 2022, they have received an additional 30 billion won in Series D investment, which equates to roughly $25 million US. This is their fourth round of investment to date, BELLATORES is confirmed to be a large-scale PC MMORPG that expands its sales and lifecycle infinitely with the development and service capabilities of Neo's core personnel, who have experience in launching multiple PC MMORPGs, as well as various game platforms and cultural content. They go on to state that we highly appreciated the IP potential of the company. They also went on to note that core developers have experience launching multiple PC MMORPGs, and while I could only find information about the CEO himself, I can tell that he was the CEO of NCSoft back in 2003. NCSoft, the company behind Ion, the company behind Blade and Soul, behind Lineage, and after 8 years at NCSoft, went on to co-found Exile Games, the company behind ArcAge. Now, after almost 9 years as CEO of Exile Games, he went on to become the senior director of Blizzard Entertainment in Korea for the next year before becoming the CEO of Neo Incorporated in 2016, which was a little under 6 years ago. Yeah, you're welcome for that history lesson. But you know what? Having a group of talented developers doesn't really mean much for an MMO. Let's use WildStar here as an example. They had an incredible team of experienced developers, but due to conflicts within their studio and NCSoft, WildStar floundered and ultimately failed. BELLATORES is, interestingly enough, being developed with the Unreal Engine 5 engine, and most importantly, Neo confirmed that it will be releasing this year, as in releasing the game in 2022. Now, I don't know, to me personally, I'm going to go under the assumption here that I have expectations of releasing some type of test phase, more likely a closed beta test sometime this year. I cannot foresee them fully realizing the game and subsequently launching it this year. Not only was it just officially revealed, but we don't have a trailer. We don't really have much in the way of in-game footage, even in the form of screenshots to base our opinions of the game off of. What we do have are the following images though, which were taken directly from their website. We have a medieval-inspired world, Jack Reacher, Altair, Harry Styles, a sacrificial altar, Gwen Stacy, Isabel Rochev, Haley from Modern Family, Noctis's dad, Asmongold, the Pope, the Dragonborn, Saber, your mother, a guy who clearly doesn't grasp the concept that archers can shoot both his left and his right, what your typical Dark Souls player thinks they'll look like as opposed to what they actually look like, Mr. Tingle, a slave camp, and finally, every Catholic church that I've ever been kicked out of. They've been attempting to create a live-action visual world with the goal of pursuing the essence of the MMORPG. Not that any of us have any real understanding of what that even means. What is the essence of the MMORPG? Is it like cake? Because we all love cake, right? This game will feature various types of content, things like survival, adventure, and production, along with large-scale PvP battles between continents. They didn't elaborate on what they meant with regards to survival, if it was going to implement features from the survival genre, or whether it was just going to be substantially more difficult than what we're used to. It's also unconfirmed whether the large-scale PvP they're talking about will be instanced or open world. The CEO of Neo, though, did go on to state that the implementation of the core functions and many features of BELLATORES under development has been completed, and it is necessary to expand the development and service manpower on a large scale for the next game build. With the financial resources secured this time, we will do our best to prepare for the release of the game by not only actively recruiting new employees, but also upgrading the game engine by increasing the company's actual competitiveness within the industry, such as salary and welfare. So, if I'm to understand this correctly, they have implemented the core of the game, along with the majority of the features that they want to be present in the final playable build. They're in the process of working towards that build and are bringing on additional developers in an active effort to reach their goal of releasing in whatever capacity they plan on releasing in this year. Whether that's a closed beta or a full launch remains to be seen. Regardless, having the game be as close as it is to release is highly promising. I know at the end of the day, this is just another Korean MMO to some of you guys, and there are going to be those of us that cover this like we always have, like me, Kira, Asmongold, Some of us will like what we see, some of us won't. Despite that, I personally think that the game has some potential. I'm aware of the CEO's history within the genre. NCSoft is an atrocious pay-to-win company, and so is Exile Games. So technically, that doesn't bode well for the future of this game. We know where his priorities lie, the kind of business model that they'll likely adopt, and the practices that they'll employ. But despite how poorly Black Desert and Blade and Soul were handled, they have both been incredibly fun MMOs to play. And at the end of the day, to me at least, that's kind of what's the most important. Neo might want a long-term financial success, but what we as MMO players want is to have fun playing a new game, whether that's for a month or for a year. This doesn't need to be the next World of Warcraft. This game doesn't need to be the next Final Fantasy XIV. It just needs to be the next game that also happens to be fun to play until the next one drops, because that is the mentality that the genre has now adopted. MMO hopping every time a new one launches, for better or for worse. Now, if you're looking for another game that I am genuinely excited for this year, then you know what to do.